Hello, this is Einar from Unity Web TV at the Unity Center. Today we have, you call yourself Lady Isis?
No, excuse me, Rhiannon. I'm Rhiannon.
Okay.
I'm channeling Lady Isis Ascension Codes.
Oh, you're channeling
I'm
Isis.
not Lady
okay.
Isis, no.
I'm great. Okay, Rhiannon.
Rhiannon,
Rhiannon,
yes.
Wow. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
She's, I think you're from Australia?
I'm Australian born and raised. Wonderful country, big island nation, down under,
yes.
far from all of the other stuff that happens in the rest of the world, which is on some points very good as far as nature's concerned, and other points perhaps we miss out on culture and language and different experiences. So I always believe that it's important for Australians to travel and spend time elsewhere, otherwise you can get caught in this little bubble. Something you were talking about before about a bubble, in the same culture bubble, and even though it's a big country that's very diverse, it is same culture, lots of little subcultures, but a wonderful land and pioneering stock. People have come out from Europe, the early settlers came out from Europe, and so there's this big space and this willingness to be very adventurous, which tends to come through the DNA, through the bloodlines of the ancestors.
Yes, I would think so.
So
did you get any contact with the Indians there?
The Aboriginals, the native, the Aboriginals. Well, actually, I have a link with the Aboriginals. One of my ancestors was married to an Aboriginal person, a woman. So that's part of my gift, actually, because these people are very highly spiritual people. They have this very powerful connection galactically, as well as deep in the earth. So they're actually very practical with their spirituality as well. And they work with the dream lines. You might have heard about the dream lines. And what they do is they connect, they tune into every rock, every river, every tree has a certain song. And so they're able to find their way anywhere in Australia. They're able to communicate to each other from across vast distances through the song lines. And so this is very much a part of the gift that I bring to the world today as well, having this ability to go into these spaces, these multi-dimensional spaces very naturally. In fact, it's, you know, when I was younger and I came through with a psychic gift, and that's in my bloodlines as well. The two matriarchal lines were psychic lines as well. Only a few of them developed it to a high degree, but they did have these abilities. So as a child I was born with the gift of sight, and which was all very wonderful until it was time for school, and then my mother was worried that I'd be looked upon like an abomination if I go up to someone and says I had this dream, because I'd have dreams, prophetic dreams, futuristic dreams, and just visions, you know.
Did you shut down?
And she figured that it was dangerous for me, even though she's a Pisces and very psychic herself, and my father Pisces as well. I really chose a really good family to come through as far as sensitivity. Pisces are always very spiritual naturally, and it's Neptunian energy, and so, you know, I'm a little Leo, a little lion, but they were gentle with this, you know, spacey little psychic lion child. But when it came for time for school, my mother suggested you mustn't talk about what you see and what you dream with your friends.
How was that?
Well, it was difficult actually, but what I did, I channeled it into my animals. I had a great love for animals, and my father was a great animal lover, and we had baby kangaroos and emus and horses and dogs and cat. We had a zoo, you know, and so I was able to channel it into that, so that wasn't too bad, but it did create some problems because I'd get the vision and then I'm not allowed to talk about it, and so you create blockages, and then you can actually start to get nightmares and psychic attacks, and because your light's there but it's getting blocked, and so that became a bit of a difficulty. If I had my time again, I wish that she would have sent me to a big clairvoyant to teach me, you know, but never mind, she didn't know either. She did her best, and so so it came and went, this gift, as a bit wild, you know, this sight, and then because it was blocked, because I had to, I wasn't able to speak, and then some of my friends who, they know you when you're psychic because you're always, you know, picking their brains basically and saying what they're about to say, or finishing their sentences, or talking about something that's exactly what they're needing to hear about. It's just what happens, even if you're not actually giving them a psychic reading. And some of the times things had happened with them, or they were making choices, and I would get the vision of this is not a good choice, but, you know, I remember the zip, because in my teen years it was like, well, you know, really I don't really have permission to share my vision because I'm not trained, and it comes and goes. It's a bit wild, and I don't know, you know. But then they would come to me later after they'd been through a really harsh event, maybe in a relationship story or something or other, and say, Rhiannon, you knew, didn't you? And why didn't you tell me? It's like, well, I didn't have permission. Someone told me once upon a time to zip it, you know. So then I decided, look, this is a gift. The more I run from it and hide from it, the worse, you know, the more nightmares I get. So I'm going to develop it. And so,
how old were you then?
Well, I was quite a little scientist too. I like science, and I actually went into nursing. I went into medical. The healer came out and I went into nursing, and I quite liked that. And of course, I was seeing all these other areas as well. But it was in my, you know, around my Saturn return when finally I realised I had to take responsibility for this gift, not run from it, not try to hide it, and because it's going to help people. But I needed to get some mastery because it was all over the place. So that was like late 20s. That was the beginning, and I stepped into astrology. Which was something I'd done in past times, and I'm a natural wanting to look at the stars all the time and loved the idea of astronomy. So then the astrology became the psychological tool of understanding, and it was a great cosmic connection for me, an initiation, if you like, and it just opened everything, and I was a natural and I loved it. And then I stepped forward into that and thought, okay, I'm going to be this amazing astrologer, and I'm going to have millions of books and every area, because it's such a vast science. Well, it's an artistic science. So I thought I was going to, you know. And then one fine day, I'd lost a beautiful dog that I'd been running with for many years, a beautiful Rhodesian Ridgeback named Simboa. And I was so upset, I just couldn't come to terms with it. And I'd been in this lovely little New Age shop. This is in Sydney. And I'd seen this very interesting psychic there with this, you know, the big black eye type psychic, you know, like they're looking right through you. And I really wanted to have a reading, but no, you know, I'm doing my own thing, I'm doing my astrology, no, I'm not going to do that. But this day I just went in there and sat in front of him, and he was like, he was straight through psychic and took your jewellery and psychometry, and he had his Aleister Crowley cards, and then he just started, and he said, oh, this big golden dog, he's licking my face. That was my Simboa, you know, he had me in a second. I was like, and then we had, you know, the whole story came through, and it was beautiful, and it was, you know, it was a lovely way to release and understand the dog, and the message came beautifully, and the big thank you for the Mars bars I used to give him. And then he said, and by the way, you're going to close all your books. You know, you've had the initiation, but now you're going to close those books, and you're going to do what I'm doing. You're just going to come straight through, and one day be an amazing medium. And I went, I really liked you 5 minutes ago, but I don't like you anymore. Because I like my books a lot. But I didn't say anything, and I walked away, and I just thought, okay. He said, don't worry about that. Just let it will just happen. All right? Yeah. So it took 6 months, you know, slowly but surely I would be, you know, studying away, and then I don't want to study that anymore. And then it's slowly but surely, and then the channel, and then I started to sit in psychic circles, and then the channel opened. Then I was called to India by the great Maha Avatar Babaji, this great Indian guru who achieved Sarupa Samadhi, which means he brought his divinity into his physicality in his 20-somethings, to show to people that you don't have to wait until you get old or sick or have a big trauma or die before you get spiritual. And then he was teaching for hundreds of years, and he's in the, you might have heard of him through Paramhansa Yogananda, who wrote the autobiography of a yogi. And there's a big section about Maha Avatar Babaji in there. So I was called, and then that was my big initiation into mediumship after I'd already opened to mediumship. And I found my way up to Badrinath, where he achieved Sarupa Samadhi, which is one of the main pilgrimage points in North India. And that was the most amazing experience, and everything opened and changed. And then he came to me, and I had a big transmission with him and an exchange, and it was, you know, it kind of blew my mind a lot. But each day was just another day, and there are other gurus on the ground, because he's invisible, right? This is a deathless guru. He's not in the 3D. I mean, I was given quite a task to be following such a one that's not there in the 3D, in the physical body, but that was a part of my task, you know. But there were other ones on the ground that were in this wonderful ashram, this village of ashrams, Badrinath in North India, in the Himalayas, who would take care of me on the ground. But my real transmission was coming through the great Avatar Babaji. And so then when I went back to the 3D world of Australia, after that, it was like it expanded everything that I'd done. Before that, I was doing really good work with psychic vision and my ability to channel healing energy, but pretty much one-on, and maybe, meditation circles up to 12. And after that, I didn't really want to deal with any more numbers than that. After that, I could deal with 200 people in a room. It just changed everything, but it took, a while to integrate that. And I'm talking a lot, aren't I?
No problem. Maybe lots of people want to know your history.
Well, yes, it's a bit interesting, isn't it? But then I guess we need to move on to Egypt, do we? Yes, is that what you're asking for? So yeah, that I have to say, Babaji was my great initiator into really trusting in my gifts, not just my third eye, which is the clairvoyance, where I see things and I can see into a person and see what they need and get answers for them from their higher self and from their guides, but also this mediumship, whereupon I can channel these higher frequencies coming from the Elohim Grace, the Archangels, and the Ascended Masters. It could be one of them. It could be maybe Lord Jesus or the Lady Mary or Lady Isis at one time, or it could be the group, depending on who I'm relating to, what the person has around them, or what the group needs. So I don't really prepare to do workshops or lectures. I just need to have myself prepared and in the right space, and then everything comes through me. So I don't get books out and write notes and follow the notes, because that would be just silly, because they would just come through and say something completely different, because it depends on what the people are needing at the time, not what I want to give to them.
Yes, of course.
So it's more like the will of someone else. So a medium becomes like a way station or a bridge between higher consciousness and the 3D world, or the person in the 3D world, and our responsibility is to get out of the way, is to put ourselves out of the way and our knowledge and our experiences and allow it to come through and use us.
Are you conscious when
yes, I'm a conscious medium.
So you know what they're telling?
Yes, I'm a conscious medium, but I did have a situation. It's a little bit of a funny little story. I'd like to share it. When this is before I'd been to the Babaji in India, the big initiation. Which was, he was helping me with a Kundalini rising process I was having at the time to bring me into this higher level of awareness. But prior to that, when I was opening to channeling and going into the psychic circles, I was sitting there and doing very well and minding my own business. And next thing, this being started to, that particular meditation circle that we were creating weekly, all of a sudden out of the blue, these two very powerful beings arrived to join. And I thought, this is a bit suspicious. Something's going on. One was a great medium, a woman, like a big battery, a very advanced medium, and the guy was like a magician, very highly developed, and I was like, what are you doing in our little humble group, so we sat in the circle, minding my own business, being a good girl and trying to do the right thing, and next thing, this being is pushing in through me. I didn't know what it was, and it's like it pushed myself out, and it was pushing into my body, and I was very scared.
You didn't ask for permission.
I didn't really understand. Well, the permission came through these two big mediums, and they said, oh, we have someone arriving, and someone's wishing to speak through this budding medium, but I got scared, and I pushed it out.
Yes.
and then I had the opportunity, to say, well, do you want to be a trance medium like that? We can go again, and this time, if you know more about it, you allow it to come through you, and then you won't really remember what's being said afterwards. And it was a druid, a beautiful druid being that I had a connection with from a past life that was coming through. Or would you prefer to be conscious? And I decided to be conscious, and so you make that, you kind of sign a commitment at a time like that when you have an experience like that.
But just jump in here. When you're conscious, what's the difference? Is it easier for this channeling guy that's coming through? Is it easier if you're not conscious? Are you disturbing when you're conscious?
Well, that's the part of the development. You've got to learn through meditation and other types of development, mind mastery, where you can put yourself out of the way so that you can allow this stream of consciousness to come through you, uncensored and not interfered with through your mind at all. And really, once you get into those higher levels, those levels of consciousness can't come through you if you're still interfering with your 3D mind. So they just don't come near you anyway. I think it's probably, in a way, afterwards, on retrospect, I thought it probably would have been easier if I had have just tranced out, and then I just sit there and trance out, and they do their thing with me, you know, and afterwards I just go, what did I say? What did I, you know, and you know, and everyone's going, oh. But with this conscious way, you're you have a bit more responsibility to hold the state, but after a while it just becomes normal anyway. I mean, you just don't.
I would think that you would learn much more yourself.
Well,
also.
This is the point, you know. I really like information, and this is why it was not so easy for me to close those astrology books. So imagine, you know, I mean, I shouldn't say. But the thing is, actually, a part of it is these days, people, in the early parts of this century, people really did like to have the big trance mediums, and sometimes that phenomenon where it might be a woman trance and a male would come through, male voice and a male face even, and they needed that because they needed to be shocked, because they become so scientific, so industrialized had the world become, that they really need to have stretch marks on their mind to believe that she's not copying it somewhere, that's not a trick, right? So, but you know, since the 70s, 80s, we don't really need trances so much, which you don't see many so much anymore, because we don't really need them, because the people actually like to be more interactive, and they like to, you know, to like when the medium's going, when it's time for questions, they like to be able to question and talk, and so and plus they have more information now. There's more of an opening to a higher consciousness or multi-dimensionality than what there was back then. So there's not really such a place for the trances.
But you have if I understand it right, you have you got the special mission to take down ascension light codes. Yeah, well, can you explain what that is?
Well, we're coming through a really important phase, which I'm sure you're aware of, and most people are fairly aware of. They would have heard about the word ascension. Which is all about the precession of the equinox, actually, and to do with the axis and the wobble of Earth, and as she moves around, it's 26,000 years, or just under, this revolution takes. And we've come to an end of that phase, and now her axis is not pointing away, which is more the masculine energy. She's pointing back in towards the galaxy, which is, it's like the guardianship of the Earth has been handed from patriarch back to matriarch, which is from head to heart. Alhamdulillah. In Arabic, that means thanks be to God, you know. It's enough of this cold calculative way of thinking, and what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine. It's enough now. We need more of a conscience. We need more heart, and the two can co-rule, you know. So it's the end of a big phase and the beginning of a new. And also in that phase there's 12 constellations, and the as Earth moves through her revolution, which is her own the precession of the equinox, it takes 2,160 years to go through each constellation, which has attributes that affect all of human race, which you'll be learning more about as time goes. And we're just now at the brink of the Aquarian age, which we've been waiting for a long time, where we're hoping there'll be more justice and more peace and more honesty and more light and more humanitarian efforts and more kindness and compassion in the world. This is the light bearer. This is the Aquarians are always known for their friendliness, their kindness, and they're wanting things to be fair and just and honest. So this is the at 2112, 21st of December 2012, the Earth actually pointed her axis to the very brink of Aquarius. So we've just started the age of Aquarius. So we're into Aquarius now. Yeah, which is very exciting. And so that's the ascension energy, which is going to raise the bar out of the 3D frontal brain thinking into 4-dimensional thinking, which is more unified thinking, which is a blend of head and heart, which means more intuitive processing, more intuitive sight, more dream visions, more people having developing their psychic abilities and knowing things rather than analyzing and thinking things. There is a place for analytical work and for rational brain, factual type figuring. There is definitely a place for that. I mean, you know, we're out of the caves. You know, we're living very, very sophisticated and advanced lifestyles now. So thank you for that very much. But there's too much separation. There's too much imbalance. There's too much cruelty in the world. So we need the heart of the mother back, and the nurturing and the intuition and the caring, and to now to merge and unify with the masculine energies rather than being in competition with and one being on top of the other. So it's a really exciting time. It's a big awakening, and there's very powerful energies that are being anchored onto planet Earth to assist with this awakening. Whether people like it or not, it's going to be happening anyway because it's an evolutionary process. So it's kind of better not to go against the stream, the flow of the river, or hang on to the edges for grim death because I want it my way, because you just get pulled to pieces, you know. It's much better to say, okay, I'm gonna do some exercise, become an athlete, swim the river, you know, go with the flow. And so that's the ascension river.
That's right, and you should go with the flow.
It's better, because otherwise you just get exhausted and torn to pieces if you go into this resistance and this fixity of I will not, you know. And we all have a little bit of that in us, right, at different times. And so it's very exciting, and I've chosen to live in Egypt. I mean, I love India, and I have my great guru in India, but I have very powerful past life links to Egypt. That it's very good karma, very comfortable, and I really resonate with that pharaonic culture there. And so for 12 years I've been made it my home, on and off, made it my home, and I've created beautiful Isis temple healing retreat there, right by the Abyssal pyramids, where people come to me for deep heart healing courses and sacred site journeys and so on and so forth. So the energy in Egypt, it's a land of light, and there's many great vortexes, and the pyramids are not, they are great energy generators, divine energy generators. They're not just the tombs of pharaohs, even though the pharaohs did use them as ascension channels. And so there's a whole story there which I won't go into, but it's really ley line country. You know, a lot of people have very little, but they're very happy and friendly and childlike and playful. And that's what we know as ley line country, and it resonates with the throat chakra, which is the communication, and in this particular case very much to do with third eye, higher communication to other level of beings, and activating the pineal gland and bringing the great mystery very close to the person so that they can understand the four main questions in life, which is who am I? And I'm not just Rhiannon, born of, you know, Mary and Alan and blah blah blah. I've come from God, actually, and I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. So there's so many levels to that question of who am I. It's not about, oh well, I'm a brunette, a little bit red tinged, you know, and I've, you know, I'm this age and I this culture. It's much more than the self-image that the ego brings through. It's much deeper than that, and we need to look into these questions. And of course, where do I come from? Well, I come from my mother in Australia. No, more than that. Let's transcend that whole biological or parental portal vision, and let's see, well, where do we come from? And this is something to explore. You do come from a source, or however you want to see that. God is an easy name, but however you want to see that source. So to explore that, you need to get out of the 3D brain, because really, you know, it has no idea. It's kind of like a microscope, and for that sort of information, you need more telescopic vision. And so you need to be able to go into that vast place that is beyond the turbulence of the ego mind, of the monkey mind, blah, 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 you know, with all the earthly stuff. You need to be able to go deeper than that, which is where meditation and these mind power exercises come in. Then you can tune into the cosmic mind, the great intelligence, and that's where you're going to get information from. And once you get more information about where you come from, then you got to ask, well, where do I go to at the end? I mean, okay, there's a coffin, and then there's into the earth, or there's the cremation, but there's more than that. That's the physical body that we leave behind, like the snake sheds its skin. But where else do we go? So we go into we go back to God, we go back to the source. So what is the source? There we go again. And then a very important question is, so why am I here? And this is really important, because so many people get really lost and confused, and they become just kind of, you know, robots to their programming, to their cultural condition, their parental conditioning, the patriarchal conditioning, and it might not suit them. So they need to be able to go in and quest into the heart and say, well, what do I love? And especially when I was a child, what did I love and what were my dreams? Because that's when you're pretty free, before all the programming comes in, you know, and you get told you should do this and you should do that for success and so on and so forth. And so you get back to that and say, so, you know, why am I here? How can I serve God, my father God, mother, father God? And which means, how can I serve the people? which I'm connected to because we're all children of the one source. And by doing that, you're able to get in and answer some of the questions about, well, where are my talents? Where are my gifts? And maybe I put them aside or forgot about them. How can I share them so I can express myself creatively and help the people, not just about what I can get for myself? And so it's a whole new way of being and a whole new way of seeing. And you're going to see a lot of these questions coming up in the people over these next years as the ascension energies really take root and anchor. And they're asking people to expand themselves. So, you know, for instance, the auric field of a person goes out about a meter and a half normally. These ascension energies coming in are stretching out, like way out, like meters out, yeah? And people are going crazy in that, getting confused, getting sick, feeling exhausted and drained and afraid and neurotic, because all of a sudden everything that they believed in that seemed safe seems not to be anymore. There's nothing to hook onto anymore. And so therefore we're being asked to actually, well let's ask some of these, what are these 4 most important questions, and follow this track and get some more truth and wisdom into your reality, rather than sitting in this very narrow 3D paradigm that's patriarchally engineered and is completed because we've finished the cycle and now we're going back into another way. So it's really exciting, sometimes a little bit overwhelming for some people, but such exciting times and so many new adventures, so much new information to come to each person. All you need to do is to quest, to make the pilgrimage, which is to go outside of what you know and say, I want to know more. Let me go over here. Okay, it's not science, it's not comfortable, it's something else. But let me check it and let me sit into it. Let me study it and let me practice some of those techniques they're talking about, you know, the meditation and this and this and this. Let me check it, you know, let me stretch out, and it works. And guess what? I saw this and it made sense. And that psychic, she said this to me, and you know what? No one knew that, and she just knew it, and it made me feel so much better. And oh wow, I believe, I want more. And it's very exciting. You can see I'm a little fire sign, can't you?
Yeah. I'm not very psychic myself, but I love to go to psychics and get readings. Then I get lots of aha experiences.
Yeah.
That's important, I think.
Get insights, and things resonate, and it makes people, things become more purposeful.
Yeah.
Rather than just a set of unrelated events in your life that maybe were hurtful. Yeah. It's like, well, actually, this is related to that, and for this you can learn that, and that's related to that, and this is perhaps some guidance toward that. And you can either take it on or you can throw it out if you want to. Nobody's forcing you to take it. People are just afraid of the unknown, huh?
Yes, but how does... I know the guy we interviewed yesterday, Franco, he talked about that was in Norway maybe 10% people that was into self-development, but the rest was very relaxed and a little bit more decadent. How do we get out to them? How do we get the message out to them?
The comfort zones that come with wealth. Yeah. This is a key. I 25 years now, I think maybe 26, that I've been working as a professional psychic and healer. Psychic the first 10 years, and then the healer came second. So I opened myself, and it's true. It's for people that have money in the world that it is today, where money is the ultimate power, and a lot of people pray to the god of money rather than the god of love, right? And so it can be a big buffer zone, definitely, because it's like you can just keep fixing things by throwing the money around, and you can put yourself above people and feel very superior and very comfortable. But it's during the dark night of the soul, where the money is not a warm companion at all.
Yeah? What happens then?
That's when you start asking the questions. And often, perhaps people that have a lot of money, it is a bit of a buffer zone. But some of them will have this consciousness awakening within them anyway, because that's pre-organized, whether they have millions or not. And they'll go out and they'll search for truth. And then they'll use their money maybe to build centers like yours and so on and so forth to bring more people. There are others that it keeps them in ignorance a little bit and a little bit of denial, because it is a buffer zone. But generally, you know, life has its way, and there might be a trauma or some loss or something that comes along when one fine day their money, they can't buy something or fix something because it's of a spiritual nature. It's related to the great mystery, not to the patriarch and superglue. So they will quest. They will one day quest. Now, for me, this is my first time to Norway. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. And I was drawn to come. I happened to be in Australia just a few months ago. And I was at a very powerful matriarchal site, a Pleiadian portal, Mount Quincun and the Seven Sisters, which is related to my indigenous blood and the indigenous cycles as a part of their dreaming, and a very important feminine portal. Because they are mostly feminine energies that are being anchored during this ascension process, okay? We have enough masculine. Yeah. It's mostly ascension, so for the awakening of the heart. So we live more in the heart rather than the head, which is cold and calculative by nature, which means that there will be separation and abuse and injustice worldwide because of that paradigm. So we need to bring in the caring and the nurturing and the compassion and the sharing and the love, and marry the two. So in this particular portal, as I was receiving this download, I was given a vision of this area, the Scandinavian countries, and all the water that you have. And water is Neptunian, and Neptunian is God-linked. Water is feminine. It's the heart energy. That's the element that it represents. And so you have a lot of water, and you have a lot of ice, and you have, I was surprised actually, and I was really relieved coming on the aeroplane, looking down and seeing all this nature, all these forests. It's like, because I fly over Europe and my heart breaks a little bit because it's all cultivated land. It's stripped of its forests, and it always makes me a bit sad, and sometimes I won't look anymore. And here you have all these forests, and so you have a lot of nature, which means you have the nature spirits, which means the elemental powers here, which is the earth and the fire, and the air and the water are in accord. They're in harmony because they're not being abused and they're not being denied, and they're not being raped, pillaged and plundered like some of the other lands just south of you. And so therefore when they're in accord, things are much more comfortable, which means the nature spirits are happy and harmonious, which means they're helpful. They're not angry and they're not hostile and attacking energy, which happens when they've been disturbed, when they have their own work to do, and they get disturbed, and then they get hostile, and then you get bitten by a snake, you fall over in the dark, and horrible little things happen because there's disturbances everywhere, because not maybe because anything you did personally, but your human friends probably have been doing. So when I looked down, I saw these forests, and so in the vision I was seeing that it's a big heart energy here because of all the water that you have. So naturally it's a part of your environment, and humans are really shaped by their environments. It really does work that way. You look at the difference between country people and city people and their values, and what's meaningful and purposeful and the way they treat each other. There's a huge difference, okay? And so the vision was that there's going to be a big awakening in these areas, in Sweden and the Scandinavian countries and Norway, where people are going to start to shift and awaken and move ahead very quickly with that ascension process, because you're so supported by the elemental powers here, which is vastly water. And so you could be thankful for all your water. And then when you get your snows pure white, it's a purifying energy. It brings back innocence and purity. So there is a lot of support. And so yes, there's always going to be a small degree that hunker down and stay with the old energy. But my sense is there's going to be this beautiful awakening. And this is why I've travelled here on a calling. And I'd like to share some of my gifts and my wisdom and my vision and my knowledge with people that are interested to share with me. And
you're going to have a little workshop here on Sunday.
Yes, on Sunday.
What are you going to talk about then?
Okay, I'm presenting I call them the Lady Isis Ascension Codes. Ascension codes are the new energies that are being downloaded or anchored on planet Earth at this particular time during the ascension process, as Mother Earth goes from 3D into 4D. Whether the humans want to go or not, Mother Earth is going, so it's better to go. I don't know what will happen if you don't. You just kind of get left behind and maybe in your nice little rich pads, but it might not be too comfortable if everything else is moving on, So now Lady Isis is a very powerful facet of the mother. I'm not sure if you know about the mythology, and I won't go into it because it's quite a big story, and that is for the workshop. But it's she's one of our great mothers, and many people have the connection with Lady Isis. Not only was she a great healer, she's also a great magician. and a great queen and a great mother and a sister and all the qualities of the feminine. And because I reside in Egypt and have my healing temple there, I connect to Mother Isis through my healing very powerfully. In fact, I've brought through a few miracle healings through her energy. Once was a big story, I won't go into too much, but with a little foal that was dying on the third day from my beautiful mare. It was just going, and I just stood there and said, Lady Isis, please, this was to heal the mother. Now don't take the baby now, because it would be heartbreaking. And the energy just came through me like you wouldn't believe, it just lit me up, and that little baby just within 6 hours we had it moving, and now it's a 6-month-old colt. That's the naughtiest, cheekiest little thing you've ever met, my baby Awen. So you can invoke this type of energy, which is exactly what Lady Isis did when her Osiris, her husband brother, was brutally murdered and cut into millions of peoples and thrown out throughout Egypt by his jealous evil brother Set, who was representing the chaotic face of life. And so she went through that sadness and the mourning, but she didn't give up, and she followed through, and she created great magic by being able to put all of the pieces back together again for a moment of conception, so that she could conceive the baby Horus. So here we have the Mother, Father, God energy. We have the Father, Mother, and the Son energy, the Holy Trinity, the Jesus, the Mary energy, and the Holy Spirit energy. So it's that whole Holy Trinity energy that came through ancient Egypt and that particular form of mythology. So the Lady Isis energy has great co-creative powers and healing powers, and I use that energy a lot in my work, and so I'm able to bring through and channel those light code packages to help people through some of the initiations and the meditations that I'll be giving in the workshop, to help them to open themselves enough to be able to heal the past, because you really can't go forward unless you've healed your personal history. And sometimes that personal history means going into past lives, which is one of my fortes. I just go straight into this with my gift, looking and finding the past lives that are related to something, perhaps a trauma or a challenge that a person is going through at this particular point. And by bringing that in, they're able to relate to it. And then we can start working in the personal history, the childhood, the wounds and the hurts and the losses of the childhood that are often repressed, because you're told to close it all down, like I was told to zip it. In the patriarch, don't cry, don't get emotional, just think and get out there and do, So this all needs to come forward. And people are afraid of that, which is why they tend to resist spirituality or personal development. But once you start, you realize it's not so painful. In fact, it's beautiful. And there's in every wound there is medicine. And so we go through our chemical processes and make the change and take the dark into the light and take the medicine from it, so that we don't need to repeat that again. And this is a big part of the ascension energy. And so the Lady Isis light codes help people to become brave enough to be able to face their demons and face their fears and their phobias, and actually not be ashamed of them or not deny them or not project them out anymore, but actually do something with them, which is to take self-responsibility and recognize them, and then lovingly and gently allow these healing energies or the healers around to help them to bring these into unity, and never have to go to that particular place again.
But